All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to your weekly market check-in here with myself, Greta Wall. I'm your host, and I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of T3 Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. Happy Thursday, David. How's your day going so far?
Great day, good week. Not a complaint. All's good.
That's good. All right. It has been a big week for the market, of course. Our title today is the Post-FOMC market update. So we're going to talk about the Fed, where we're headed from here, and what the Inner Circle has been trading and how you've been navigating this environment. So first, let's start off with the Fed. Fed cutting rates as expected, 25 basis points yesterday, with a dot plot showing 2 more rate cuts this year, 1 in 2026, so a little less than expected in 2026, kind of moving up some of those rate cuts. And then, of course, the ever important press conference from the chairman. So, of course, the decision being kind of as expected. What did you think, though, about the chairman's presser and what the market took from it based on the market action during and after?
Sure. So there were a couple things to focus on going into the Fed. First off was we don't always have dot plot. It was most certainly the dot plot. And bulls wanted to see a minimum of 2 additional cuts in 25. So that first pop you saw, where we saw small caps outperform and IWM up 5 and big cap tech selling off, was the dot plot. Although there was a little less in 26, most people on this call or video will be aware that, well, he's not going to be around too long in 26. So it was all about 25 and what we're doing in terms of cutting rates moving forward, and it was sufficient to make the bulls happy. So we just saw some massive rotation. And then as he started speaking and basically said you can't hang your hat on additional rate cuts, he actually walked back things a bit, basically saying, if you really follow what he's done recently, at the last meeting, he said, or it was at the Jackson Hole last meeting, he said, we are now a bit more focused on jobs and job growth than we are inflation because we see it declining. Yesterday, he said, kind of walked it back and said, our focus has been inflation. Now it's about even. In other words, he basically undid what he said previously, and everyone thought, oh, okay, so you are still paying attention to inflation. It's not just job growth. And ultimately, in plain English, what he said is, don't assume we're going to get a bunch of rate cuts after this one in 25. It is going to be about the data. And I think that's why you saw immediately IWM sell off, rotation right to big cap tech, and the Qs rally 100 points, and big cap tech rally, and what's been winning rally, whether it be the MBISs of the world or Ethereum and BMNR, it went right back to the same playbook. So ultimately, you had 2 events. You had dot plot, and then you had his verbiage at 2:30, and his commentary, which was less dovish than the dot plot would imply for 25.
All right. Let's talk about how you manage your book headed into this event. You and Kira, Rick, many members of the Inner Circle had puts on the Qs. I think you're September 24th, 585s, right? If I remember right.
And also 581s. Both.
And 581s. Mm-hmm. So why did you feel like that was a good hedge headed into this event? And then talk about how you managed it to, of course, get out of those puts at a gain before we, saw the big tech rally.
Okay, so I thought, well, this is not easy. Like, I don't feel confident we're going to have a sell-off because everyone and their mother is expecting a sell the news event. And how often are the masses right like that? We could all be right about Nvidia, but their fundamentals and earnings to back it up. When we're all guessing when a pullback's coming in a great, amazing bull market, it's a little different. I thought, well, if everyone's expecting sell the news, not high odds, but am I selling all my NP and MBIS and BMNR, or do I have some protection, like, real money manager, and not go down with the ship if it is a sell of the news? So I thought, gotta have some puts. But I kept saying we might see the sell-off pre the actual news, or maybe it's 2 days later, but maybe it's not exactly when we expect. So sure enough, we did pull back yesterday pre the event. I took some profits in some of them, and I said, listen, in case there's a real sell-off after the decision, I'm going to keep some. So what I told people is we're in a bull market. And unless he does something shocking, any sell-off tomorrow will be bought aggressively. There are too many people on the sidelines who've been betting against this market. So if we do get a dip, I'm going to be focused on what to buy and not my shorts. So ultimately, we're at 585, 586. And I said, you know what? We're actually up on all these puts. Usually these hedges go to zero. I'm taking profits. And I'll let someone else figure out how far down we're going. I now want to focus on what to buy. So I actually undid all the hedges, which dumb luck, right at the bottom, and focus on what to buy. I didn't go crazy buying, but there were a couple key names, mainly NBIS and BMNO, which both turned off highs yesterday and gave great buys. MBIS 88, 89 I was buying yesterday, and and then some more at 90, something like that. I can't remember honestly. But it's had a massive move. And then BMNR, went from like 55, 56 to 52, 53. And we bought that, and that went route. I mean, this market's insane. You just got to be around to buy dips, because we had a 20% bounce, or maybe 18% to be exact, from yesterday's lows till today. So undid the hedges and went and added to a few longs. And that's what we did. Oh, sorry. And then we got that great big pop off the original dot plot and announcement, and we saw housing go ballistic. And I sold most of my nail, not all. Nail went to 88 to 90, and I said, okay, I'm willing to miss the top. And I sold both of that, and RKT, which has been a long of mine for many, many points. I sold some at 22. And said, okay, we'll wait for the pullback. Sure enough, they unwound the small cap trade and the home builder trade. They all pulled back. They went back to big cap tech, and here we are today. So that's kind of a summary.
Headed into this event, you and I have talked multiple times about the home building sector. You aren't, bullish the housing market at this point still, but you had turned really bullish the home building stocks, saying they kind of lead the market about, like 6 months to a year ahead. Are you still bullish that sector when it comes to the stocks?
I am, but it's funny. David Tepper, who's obviously much more successful and brighter than I'll ever be, said it this morning. He said it's one of the few sectors where there's probably some value, but interest rates matter, right? They're the mother's milk, to use a Kudlow line, of housing. So if we are going to get cuts, it's one of the few spaces you can probably still dig into, and we recently had a pullback, which offered some buys. I ultimately think if there's a place to invest still, especially if you're thinking out more than just a few months, housing, absolutely. Lennar, Toll Brothers, and certainly D.R. Horton. I really like their segment because it's a cheaper model. It's $300,000-$400,000 homes. And certainly Rocket on dips. I love what they're doing. So I'm a buyer, but I'm also cognizant that everyone wants tons of rate cuts, and to see this be like an alpha trade that just goes straight up. Well, housing just went straight up. It was an amazing trade. So we might kind of have to build a new base, a higher base, and shop around before it continues higher. So the answer is yes, but not at highs. Like, you don't just buy them at highs, because frankly, it's going to take a while. Like, I've been saying it, and it was nice to hear our Fed chairman say it. He's like, this cut is not going to, he didn't say it so matter-of-factly, but he said yesterday, he literally said, this cut will not fix housing. The housing has its own issues. So housing is, you're talking about a monster-sized ship that we're trying to turn, and it's going to take several cuts. And the good news is our president can't stop complaining about it, so who knows what they come up with, because they really want to turn housing around, make it more affordable, and make it the sell-through better. So for a multitude of reasons, longer term, I like housing a lot. Just think you have to be cognizant there'll be fits and starts.
Yeah. Just a reminder for everyone who is watching us live, if you have any questions that you would like David to answer, whether it be specific tickers or trading philosophy, etc., put those in the chat and we will get to them toward the end. All right. I want to talk about Solana. You have been very active in SOLT. That's how you've been trading Solana. cryptocurrency. You've been active in the crypto space throughout this year. You know, we had the BMNR and Ethereum. Now we're on to Solana. We're back to BMNR as well. We'll talk about that also. So just talk about the Solana trade and what that thesis has been there and why that's been the pick for you after the big, you know, Ethereum rally. Then we went to Solana.
Market has the same behavior over and over, right? We have the same patterns, whether it be stocks, whether it be bonds, or whether it be small cap, or whether it be utilities in the crypto space, which is always like big cap, best in breed first, then maybe the closest to the best in breed. So think the Broadcom and AMD to what Nvidia is, and then what's underneath those guys? What are the smaller semis? Same thing in crypto. So we'd seen Bitcoin lead for so long, then we saw Ethereum, you know, take everyone's imagination, and Tom Lee really, I don't want to say put it on the map, it was on the map, but he really helped create this monster bull run and all these treasury companies. And then I thought, okay, Solana, number 3, like what's left? What hasn't moved? What's off highs? What has a chart that looks like it can explode higher and play some catch up? And how can we best play it? Oh, there's an ultra on Solana, SOLT. This market is searching for laggards, right? We saw it with China. Like Bob has done nothing but drive people crazy for 2 years, and now in a straight line, it's gone up like 35, 40%. And that's how catch-up trades happen. They just like literally in a few ticks. So I said, okay, this makes so much sense. And I remember saying, I'm not a crypto expert. I don't even know what the hell it is. I know everyone keeps telling me it's faster. It's like a turbo engine for the blockchain, all this stuff. And I said, you know what? I really don't care. Conceptually, it checks all the boxes. And crypto is never going to be my expertise. I'll always be invested in it. I own Bitcoin forever. But this makes a lot of sense, besides the fact that it's faster and all the technical reasons of why one should own Solana. So I said, okay, wow, I don't own it. Today, after a huge move, I said, maybe I'm way early, but the stock's gone from 20 to 34 SOLT, and I think it's time to exit. I'll be a buyer if we ever have any sort of pullback, because it just feels prudent, because there's only so much I want to be long in my book. So that was kind of the thesis. Laggard play, 3rd on the list, way off highs. Everyone constantly looking for what hasn't moved, and it worked. So I got it.
You and the inner circle obviously had a huge win with BMNR earlier this year. You and I have talked about it, but like you've said, after the Fed yesterday, it was one of the names that was on your list to buy. What were those levels you were looking at to buy, and kind of what are your targets for this trade as it moves forward? And where did you buy it yesterday after the?
Bought at 53s. And I guess it had pulled back from like 55, 56. I'm not sure where it hit in the morning. But I said, listen, and I think got to like 52 or something. But I said, listen, Ethereum's clearly in a breakout mode. Certainly BMNR has cleaned out all the sellers. And what I mean by that is you had all these people on Twitter, didn't know what they owned. There's just, I was about to explain to people that message. I had people message me, they're having heart attacks, and this is crap, and Tom Lee, and they didn't understand that literally the stock had gone from, like we first entered at 31. I love this story. I hadn't loved a story like this in a lot of time, right? And everything made sense. And the stock went to 71 in like a week. It was totally insane. So we pull back. There's a lockup. Ethereum pulls back a bit. It was all kind of normal. Now, here's the good news. You had such fear, and you had people saying it's a scam. There was someone on Inner Circle who literally was like, it's going back to 4. I kind of screamed at him because I was pissed. I was like, you're going to scare people. But the point is, when you have that type of fear, usually wash out sellers. And the people that own it are actually mature. I shouldn't say mature. Or anyway, short term, long term, you can be mature. They are devoted shareholders who aren't in it for a couple points. So once you washed all those shareholders out, you had Tom on TV, you had, endlessly, you had Ethereum break out. I thought, oh, when this breaks out, it's not a small little move, it's a big time move. So any pullback has to be bought. Yesterday, had a pullback into 53, and my target was, I'm more conservative. I can see it go much higher, but you can see that 65 spot. So I said, for now, I'll get much smaller into 65. Today at 63, I said, we're almost there, so I got small. But ultimately 65 and then 71 where it topped out last time. 65 sticks out to me because when I got so aggressively long at 31 the first time around, we got out at 65 before it hit 71. It was a spot that sticks out. It sticks out again, and then 71. But ultimately, we have some household name investors, and they're not just household names. They're some of the best in the world. In this name, you have Tom in it. You have Ethereum itself, which matters because it's built on Ethereum. So it could go much higher longer term.
The other name that you were buying yesterday post-Fed was MBIS. That's a Nebius Group. What's your thesis there for this name? A name you in the inner circle have been active in.
Yes, it's like $20 or something where we first started. So many people on the street now know what it is. Let's say about 2 months ago, most did not, and they thought it was connected to Yandex still, and it was Russian. And bottom line, right? You have Nvidia as an investor from a big deal they did, and clearly they signed the deal of all deals recently. And that deal was with Microsoft, and it was massive, right? To the tune of billions of dollars. So the stock gets re-rated. Now people say, okay, this isn't just a story. Like these guys are going from nothing to growth you've only seen with Nvidia type companies. And the night of the deal, it went to $109. It was totally silly. We bought it. I said, listen, as far as buying this, I would never buy it. But if it pulls back, we'll buy it. So that was, I can't even remember now. It was a week ago, a week and a half ago. All I know is it pulled back to the 90.86 range that evening, and we were buyers. The very next morning, right after the deal, very next morning, it traded back to 100. I said, I know you're all excited, people, but one, it's overbought. Two, if they don't raise money, we shouldn't own the company because it means they're idiots because they have to raise money because they can't supply what they're required to supply without raising capital. So let's take a profit. Maybe it goes higher, but odds are they're going to raise capital, pull back. And that's when we can get really aggressive and size right. So we did. They announced a deal to raise capital, 10 million shares, $92.50. I said, people are like, well, it breaks syndicate bid. I said, guys, these banks have been around for a long time. They went through 2009. They ain't protecting it at 92.50. That's not how it works anymore. They will gladly let the stock trader, in fact, let the trading desk buy it when you guys sell it because it breaks syndicate bid. And when they're buying it, we're going to be buying it under 90. So for the past week, that's what we've been doing. As low as 86, as high as 90. I'd say our average cost between 87 and 88. And then yesterday again, I think 89 on the pullback. So that's what we've done for a week straight. And frankly, it's been like 3 round trips. I think between 86 and 100, we've probably made 30 points. It's had like 3 round trips. Yesterday, on that weakness, we bought it yet again, pre the Fed, after the Fed. And today I've sold some. I'd like to hold it a bit longer this time around. Like I don't plan on getting flat and I'm a little larger. But ultimately, I think we'll get above 100. It's just going to take some time to weed through these new shares. They did a convertible debt deal. It's just not, these things take time. We saw it with CoreWeave, we saw it with Circle, new shares in the float, new debt, a little bit of choppiness. Once you really get through that, you can get massive moves. We already had one, 86 to 96 or 97 isn't bad. But to give you an example, CoreWeave, everyone gave up on. I think that hit 86. Or was it not? No, yeah, 86. And then it was right back to 130. It's like a 40%, 45% move. So I think I've seen people on Twitter that don't really understand stocks and think like it should be up every day. Like, well, it doesn't have to be up every day. You have to eat through the supply. Supply and demand still matters. And I think we're slowly eating through that supply, and that's why the stock is moving like it is. And I'm a big fan. And you have this type of growth, how can you not like it? I just want to call it like it is. This is not a company earning tons of money. It's a revenue growth story, right? If the market ever changes, we'll change. But for now, this is a stock I want to buy on all dips because we will be rewarded. But it's not like when we were buying it at 20. So I'm always cognizant if the market changes, I'll change. For now, it's been an absolute home run.
Real quickly, let's go back to BMNR from Twitter. Someone asked, what do you think about a BMNR entry today?
I think it's the opposite of how I trade stocks. Now, there'll be people out there who are like, oh, this is in motion and this broke out. I look at a stock and every time I buy it, if it's not an hour trade, I look, what's my risk? What's my reward? So I look at a stock like BMNR that I bought at 53 yesterday and at 61 right now, with my short-term target being 65, I'd say, oops, I missed it. Where can I buy it? Probably 55, 56, and I buy it. And if it doesn't pull back, okay, on to the next one. So I'm always looking at risk reward, and I'd say you missed it. Why don't you wait? And if you're looking out a year, then none of this conversation means anything. Then just buy some and hope it goes lower and buy some more when it goes lower. But if you care about the next, say, 10%, I'd wait for a pullback. And if you miss it, you miss it.
All right. Somebody from Twitter wants to know about NVMI. I don't know if that's a ticker that you know much about. Nope.
I don't even know not much. I know nada. Nothing.
All right. MP Materials. A name that's been in the news since the Apple news. So what have you been doing with it?
For a recap, you have when the United States government becomes your largest shareholder, right? And you sign a deal with Apple the same week. If you don't pay attention to what's going on, I'm not saying you have to buy it, but you're in the wrong business if you at least don't pay attention. So when that happened, we got very aggressive. That was back in the 40s, and it had to run for the ages. I don't remember where I got flat, but it was well above 70. I probably didn't catch the top if it went to like 84 or something. All I know is mid 70s or 80. I said, okay, this has gotten insane. It's building in such momentum. I think I gotta wait for it to rest. So I got flat and I traded here and there, but no real positions. Finally, some of these leading names, MBIS, pre this Microsoft deal, same thing, had about a 20% pullback. Well, that was a leading alpha name, had a pretty large pullback. And this one I felt really strong about. When I feel there's time to enter something and it's not going to be too quick, and I really like the setup, I share it on Twitter, right? Because it's not like I'm sharing my secret sauce, because they have to have their own conviction, they have to know where to sell it, blah, blah, blah. So I try and be friendly and share. So we had almost a 25% pullback into a great defined level. I think it was the 50 or 100 day. I think it was the 50 day. Said, yeah, it's MP time. Obviously, nothing changed. The U.S. is still our biggest shareholder. By the way, they are setting a price which is very favorable to us in terms of profitability. And on top of it, God knows we don't want to rely on China and rare earths. So this isn't a short-term thing. This is the beginning of a much bigger theme. And this is the behemoth in the space. And then Apple comes in. So yeah, to me, if the market's going higher, this, after taking a break, will go higher. So got to close to a full position, probably not a complete full position, 62s and 61s, trimmed some along the way. Finally today I made some larger trims because my first big target was 73 and we're at 71 right now. So after about almost a 20% rally, I've sized down, and I think I can go higher than 73, but I always have my kind of first major target. So that was the play. I was a bit loud about this one because I thought, oh, this should shop around and give some people time to really get involved. And it did, and it got really tight, and now it's expanded and really broken out. Once it had to get over that 20 day, I like to call it 21, some people call it 20, but I had to really get over it, and once it did, which happened yesterday, it's just been a powerful breakout. So looks great. Would I buy it here? No, I'd trim and trail here and look for a pullback to buy.
All right, another name that the U.S. government is involved in, and now another big tech company also, is Intel. The U.S. government, what was their investment?
$23, about $5 billion, as I remember.
Right. And then Nvidia today announcing they're going to invest $5 billion.
Into Intel. So I'm not talking about U.S. Sorry. Nvidia's investment about $5 billion in the 20.
Right. So the stock up about 28% today, over $31. Could Intel be the next have it be the next to have a move like MP Materials?
Probably not, but it's pretty amazing, right? It's the best case scenario. So as far as I'm concerned, I was like, whoa, this is like a big deal. And it's not even that bad for Nvidia. It's not like they're just doing Trump a favor, because they've been so focused on what their core competency is that, like, the personal, retail business and personal computing, they've kind of not been focused on. Wow, they get a whole entry there. Maybe it's not as profitable, but they'll still make money. So it works all around, and God knows it's the best news possible for Intel. It's not going to trade like MP, but I certainly think you can buy it on dips. It's a whole new company as of today that has a built-in line of business because, well, Nvidia decided upon it. It's a huge deal. Now, would I buy it up 30% and just say it's going up another 30%? No, I think it's going to take a little while to turn the ship. But with Nvidia, I doubt the highs are in. It will be able to be bought, in my strong opinion. And yes, beyond Nvidia, you had SoftBank and you had the U.S. government, but that wasn't enough to turn their business. That was enough to buy them some time to figure out what the F they're going to do to fix this complete destruction that's been created. Nvidia did that today. So it was much more powerful than capital. It's, oh my God, here's a business plan that maybe can work. Big deal. I waited for Intel to pull back. I said I'll buy it into 30. I think I missed buying it by 20 cents. So the only thing I did was I saw, of course, the comps like AMD, like ARM, all take a big hit, right? Especially AMD, because they're so focused on personal computing. So it took a big hit, came into 150. I said, I might even go to 147, but I'll buy some here. It rallied a few points, and I didn't think it would hold, so I took a profit. Just cute trade. But haven't done much based upon this news beyond the AMD trade.
Mm-hmm. What do you think this partnership between Nvidia and Intel means for the broader semiconductor space?
I think what people have to realize is there's a chain of companies, right? You have equipment manufacturers, you have chip manufacturers, you have connectivity. It really benefits if you guys, like we saw ASML, have a rock star move. We saw Synopsys. So you kind of have to look at the chain and who works with who. I think Lam Research was a big benefactor. And then some people, of course, were nervous. Who does it compete with in the semiconductor, chain? Like, who's so focused on personal computing and might actually see competition from this partnership? And of course, that was AMD and that was ARM. And some people thought TSM. I am not an expert enough in terms of TSM to understand if it really benefits, if it hurts them or not. But I can tell you the stock, which was down quite a bit earlier, had a massive turn off the bottom. So maybe people misread the situation. But it means there's certain winners and certain perceived losers like AMD and ARM.
What does it mean for Nvidia long term?
It means it can only help, because they literally are now back into the retail personal computing space in a huge way, and all those graphic cards and all these different things that are put into personal computers that AMD makes. Well, now Nvidia can make them too via Intel. So it's a win-win. Yeah. Well, they a great return on their money. Is it like having, what they have with their GPUs and CUDA and the high profitability and high margin? Probably not. I mean, I know not. But it certainly just expands their moat even more.
All right. From YouTube, wants to know if you would you like a name like USAR, which is USA Rare Earth, to play catch up to a materials move, like with MP, or was the MP thing name specific with the US deal? Apple, of course.
It was specific, but I believe in catch up trades, right? One of my biggest wins this year was AMD under 120. I said, looking at where the market is and how far Nvidia had gone, I said, I don't like Nvidia here. I actually like AMD. So I like the whole concept of a catch up trade if the market permits. That one makes sense. The one I just want to mention that my buddy, who's kind of, a top news guy on Wall Street, explained, and he mentioned it at 30, and it's up another $1.80, is METC, Ramaco Resources. another comp seems to had a great call today and some really big news. So as another catch-up play, I would look at this Mary, Eric, Tom chart. But the USAR, that works as well. You see it's up almost 6% today. The whole group's up, and those are both catch-up plays. I'd suggest METC before USAR.
All right, I was looking ahead to our calendar for next week so we can talk about what's next, because we're past the Fed. That was like the big thing the market was waiting to get past, to get the dot plot, to kind of figure out what's happening for the rest of the year. So we're past that. Next Friday we'll get the PCE index, which is the Fed's favorite inflation gauge. And as you mentioned earlier, Fed chair saying yesterday, we do still care about this, so that number becomes important.
I think this stuff is really big time now. You can have 1-2% moves in the market on almost every major inflation gauge. So I would say it's going into the end of the year. So many people are underinvested, expecting a pullback, and we're not getting one. So that just increases the fire. So there's nothing I would just fight. There'll be cute shorts here and there, right? But ultimately, I think, the path of least resistance is still higher. I would just be cognizant that on any inflationary number, maybe we finally get a 7% pullback somewhere over the next 4 weeks. God knows I'd love it. In the meantime, I'm not going to predict it because there's too much money being handed out. Tepper really said it best today. He said it not just about real estate. He said, the market is handing out so much, I can't not invest. Boy, I still hate the market. He's like, I hate the market, but you can't bet against it. And there are too many good, he didn't say setups. He just said that they're just serving too much. Bottom line is, these moves are unbelievable and the opportunity is unbelievable. So you can't ignore it. Even though the overall market, I feel the same way. By the way, I'm not going to pretend I just started to. I feel the same way about the broad market for the past 2 months. But I keep saying, I don't like the market, but I'm still investing in it because underneath the hood, there's massive moves and we can make a lot of money. So my thought is it's still going to go on till the year end, but just be aware that at any given moment, we can pull back 7-8% because God knows we're long in the tooth. But I'm not going to ever be levered short till there's a reason to, because I'd much rather, like I said, buy BMNR and make 20% in 24 hours. Like I ain't making 20%, maybe some puts, but otherwise shorting is hard right here. Betting against this bull is hard. So I'm doing very little of it, just here and there and once in a while.
I've definitely heard a lot over the last few months from you. I hate this market, but this chart looks good, so we'll buy that. Yeah. All right. Question I skipped real quick from Twitter. They want to know your thoughts on coin/MSTR.
Coin was really tight down at 300, built a nice base. Ultimately, the breakout happened. Boom. Now I think it's time to, size down, if anything. I definitely don't like coin. It was such a clear setup between 3 and 310. I didn't buy it because there were other things crypto-wise like SOLT and BMNR that I preferred, but there was a clear setup. A lot of people told me about it. I said, I see what you see. I'm not a big fan until it gets to 280, but I understand why you like it. It got really tight and monster explosion higher. And now I think a lot of that move has happened. It just went up 30, 45. Yeah, it just went up 15%, even 17% off recent lows after a poor earnings report. So I think the move happened. I don't see anything to do there. What was the other name? There's another name.
MSTR, MicroStrategy.
Oh, MSTR. A lot of people. I can't tell you, like 4 or 5 people I know, and bright guys, right? Zah, who a lot of you know on Twitter, my friend Blair, my friend Joe. I must have like 4 or 5 guys starting yesterday and maybe even the day before said MicroStrategy. It's actually, a lot of these people didn't like it, went bullish, and sure enough, today it really went higher. Probably has some more room to the upside. This is kind of a massive day one, probably a little bit more. I didn't take it. It's fine. Like I said, I don't need to be in everything. I need to have enough of the special, let's say, jockeys in each space. So for me, in crypto, and when it comes to we're talking coin and MSTR, I just went with BMNR and salt. And those were my two jockeys. But MSTR, I get why people liked it, and there's probably some more upside.
All right. Eddie wants to know how you pick price targets in your swings.
Yeah, I mean, that's as rudimentary as picking up the toilet seat when you go to the bathroom. Valuation, price to sales, price to earnings, comps, like, closest competitor, what do they trade at? What are their profit margins? Is the CEO a rock star? Is it an average CEO? Let me give you an example, right? Someone today said SanDisk is still trading at a low PE. It trades at 17 times. Said, actually, it's been re-rated. That's almost double what SanDisk typically trades at, because it's always been known as a hardware company. Same way Micron, a lot of people might think it's cheap because it trades under 20 times earnings, but if you have knowledge, you understand it's been trading under 20 times earnings for, I don't know, like 2 decades, because their period of tremendous growth, which was 2000, 2020, 2000, like 99 through 2003, back when Intel was hot, that came and went, and it's traded. Commodity companies trade with lower PEs. So Micron had like a single-digit PE, right? And now it's expanded. So you come up with price targets by understanding the multiple that companies trade with in that sector, right? If it's software, it's a higher multiple. If it's SaaS, it's a higher multiple. So it pays to understand the sector you're in, the average multiple, your earnings growth, your lack thereof. Is it a turnaround? And that's how I come up with targets. Really basic stuff. And then
all right. Here.
And then the chart, of course, you layer that right. And come up with price.
All right, here post-Fed with more inflation data coming next week. And, we've already talked about what you've been trading, what you bought yesterday after the Fed. But if you're looking at the market here, what are some charts and ideas that you're looking at and saying, ooh, I could buy this where?
After the past 2 days, they're getting a little tough. I think last time I gave some really good ones that exploded, like Rocket. Rocket exploded, and Immunome exploded higher.
They don't have to be investments. They could just be, what are some of the charts they're looking at?
Trades is a really beautiful chart that I think you can pull back, or you can buy on a pullback into 55.50, and I think there's way more to go. Immunome has a readout this year. There is more risk than normal because you have your first phase 3 readout. But again, the CEO bought 100,000 shares at 8 and 100,000 shares at 13. And some of the smartest money on the street is in it. And, it's a teeny little market cap. And I think it doubles or triples from here, probably in the next 12 months. So still a fan, but a little bit more higher risk than normally has. MP, still a fan, but I'd only buy on pullbacks towards like 65, 66. Rocket, I love long-term. Shouldn't say love because it kind of jinxes the stock, but if it pulls back to the 21-day, which is under 20, last I saw 1940, 1950. I'm a huge fan. By the way, I think you can buy Intel for a trade if you have let's say probably a 5-7% pullback, somewhere between 29 and 30. I'd be a fan of Intel for a trade. And Tesla, which we're in. I sold, I had like a target on Tesla short term at 439. So I've done a lot of selling, but I'd go right back to Tesla. I'm long, but I'd add to the position into 400. Bottom line is, one of the most important businessmen in the history of the world bought more stock, not at 200, not at 300, between 200 and like 371 to 397. That's actually so impressive. He chose to wait till he bought, so it was way off lows. So also, guys, he has a lot of money, right? He has a need to make money. So if he's buying more stock, it tells me he really probably anticipates, whether it's robotics, whether it's self-driving, whether it's robotaxi. I think he truly believes that the timeline is much shorter than some others do. So whether the valuation makes sense, I don't care. When he buys more stock, how can you ignore that? He hasn't bought stock since 2020. So I think on any real dips, you can buy Tesla too.
All right. Thanks, David. For everyone with us live, if you want to join our free event next week, David and I are getting together next Thursday after the market close to talk about him as a trader and how you could work with him. So again, that's a free event. You can go to t3live.com/DP to attend. We'll have some special offers for everyone and all of that. But again, that's next Thursday after the market close. We won't have a live stream here next Thursday morning because we'll be doing that after the market close. So again, t3live.com/DP to sign up. It is free and we'll both be there for that. David, thanks for your insights on the market today. And I hope you have a great rest of your trading week.
Thank you. Thanks for doing it. Have a great day, everyone.